Welcome to the Be Here Now Guest Podcast. This series features a collection of teachings and conversations centered around mindfulness, spiritual growth, and living a life in balance. Each week, our diverse network of guest teachers and hosts offer up wisdom and practices from a different spiritual path and perspective. If you would like to support this podcast, please visit BeHereNowNetwork.com/donate.
Love and emptiness. Spiritual life is woven across lifetimes. As I have become older, I have been drawn to follow these threads, to look back upon lifetimes and find the similarities of practices of different traditions that echo within my soul. Silence and emptiness have always called to me, together with the simple practice of sitting. And the world of nature has always been part of my spiritual life. Walking in the early morning, watching the heron in the lagoon catching fish, or in the simple words of a Zen haiku, cherry blossoms falling, or the rivers and mountains of Chinese Chan paintings. Chan, Zen in Japanese, was a blending of Taoism and Buddhism, which traditionally began with the Bodhidharma in the 6th century, who taught an awakened Dharma, as expressed in this powerful poem. A separate transmission outside of all teaching and nowhere to be found in all eloquent scriptures. It's simple, pointing directly at mind. There, seeing original nature, you become Buddha. Chan is a journey beyond all forms, an awakening to our original mind, the primal emptiness behind all of our thoughts, which is the root of existence, and at the same time brings you back to the simplicity of ordinary everyday life, where the original mind is also the everyday mind. Or in the practical wisdom of Zen, chop wood and carry water. It might seem that this awakening is a very different journey to the Sufi path that takes one deep within the heart, but I have always known that my own journey has combined these threads. Last life a Zen monk, this life a Sufi teacher. The Sufi path I have followed is known as the silent Sufis, because we do all our practices in silence. I have sat in silence within both traditions, experienced how love drowned the thoughts in the presence of my Sufi teacher, or remembered an empty mind through which the deeper dimensions of existence have become accessible. In both, one leaves behind the ego self, to be where you are when you let go of the self that you happen to be. And always I have returned to the simplicity of what is deeply human, a hot cup of tea after an hour of sitting, watering the vegetables in the garden. As I have become older, I sense how the soul's journey takes on different textures in different lifetimes, and yet remains true to certain qualities. Emptiness and silence belong to how my own soul has formed and reformed, to which love was added in this lifetime. From this I have come to recognize that we each have essential soul qualities, which can be found in the texture of our practice. At the beginning of the journey, it may be important to focus on a certain path to follow. I turned from Zen to Sufism when I met my teacher when I was 19. But in these, my final years, I experience a different, wider landscape, remembering different paths to the same essential emptiness. In Sufism, we use the energy of love to dissolve the mind, focusing on the heart as we sink into silence. In Chan, the transmission is also through dhyana, meditation, but the focus is slightly different. Pure consciousness, similar to Rigpa in Dzogchen, rather than love. But the boundless freedom is the same, pure emptiness beyond form, a wild absence from which life arises and then dissolves. This is the root of the root, or as my teacher said to our Indian guru when he asked her why she had come, the rootless root, the causeless cause. And so my own soul has told this story, this journey, this pathless path again and again, in different landscapes, and now I look back and see how it is the same, even as it appears different. This lifetime I had a family. Last lifetime I was a monk. Each landscape adds a different color, fragrance, even as it is a journey beyond any color, any fragrance. The beyond of the beyond does not know any limitation, even as it speaks in a myriad of voices. The 10,000 things arise and then dissolve back into the emptiness. Or for the Sufi, love gives birth to the myriad colors of creation, which then merge back into the infinite ocean. I was blessed to have met my teacher. I was blessed to have become a Sufi teacher. And now I am blessed to be an old man looking after his vegetables in the garden. Part of the grace of getting older, when one is no longer rushed through the days, is to look back and reflect, to see the elements that make up our life story. Sometimes one can find a defining element in one's childhood or a first love. Recently I have been drawn to look further back, across lifetimes and oceans, to find a hermit's hut beside a stream in China, a Zen monastery in Japan, and in this lifetime, meeting a white-haired Russian lady who had been trained by a Sufi master, and whose presence opened my heart in ways I could not have imagined. In these 3 pieces, I would like to share this thread, this essence, this transmission that belongs to my essential nature. It has been a journey of light, love, and emptiness, each piece telling the same story in a different way. Maybe it will resonate with others who have come to know different qualities to their own journey. Light. It is all so simple. We each have within us a spark of divine light. This is our true nature, or in Buddhist terms, our original mind. We have this spark, this light, since we were born. We bring it with us into this world, and slowly it becomes covered over, distorted, hidden, and forgotten. As Buddha realized when he was awakened, all sentient beings already have Buddha nature, but their true nature is obscured by delusion and attachment. And so we stumble through the world looking through the haze of our false conceptions and attachments, the illusions of our ego self, until one day, maybe just for a moment, the light breaks through. In this moment of illumination, we are for an instant awake. It is said that for most people this may happen 3 times in their life, this momentary unveiling. And most people forget it, this shaft of sunlight, and once again their eyes are covered over, and they return to the play of illusions we call life. But some are destined or drawn not to forget, and from this moment their life changes course, and in some way they aspire or try to follow this light. This is when spiritual life can begin, when what the Sufis call the journey from God becomes the journey to God. We seek the source of this light, this unveiling of our true nature. We seek to remember, to return, to uncover our original mind. It is a hard and mysterious journey, what people call spiritual life, and maybe after many years we come to realize that this light, this spark is always present, can never be lost or forgotten, because it is the essence of everything that exists or does not exist. And every moment of every day is infused with this light. And then we realize that in Buddhist terms, our original mind is our everyday mind. Or in the words of the Zen master Dogen, all beings are Buddha nature. All existence is Buddha nature. Or for the Sufi, we discover that we are always one with God, and that there is nothing other than God. That is all. How we make this spiritual journey is unique to each of us. In this life I have followed the Sufi path of love, so my own story has been a love story. My own story, a return to love. I grew up in a home where love was absent. I don't think that my parents ever knew about love, and I never heard the words "I love you." For 10 years I was sent to boarding school, and when I first arrived as a 7-year-old, I remember boys in their beds crying themselves to sleep from homesickness. but I did not know what they were crying about. At school, the prescription for well-being was cold baths and endless cross-country runs in muddy boots. Affection or care were not words or actions I encountered. Then, when I was 20, I experienced love in a small room in North London, sitting at the feet of an elderly Russian woman with piercing blue eyes. But this was not a love born from the tangle of human relationships, caught in patterns of codependency or sexual desire. This love was free and all-embracing, touching the cells of the body as well as the soul. It spoke of a truth that cannot be named, and a way to walk towards this truth, to travel the ancient path of the mystic. And so this room became my home, our weekly meetings the only sustenance I craved. And slowly I learnt about love as a feeling and energy, a longing to find what I saw reflected in my teacher's eyes. Love gradually became part of my life, like an invisible scent, a perfume from a hidden garden. It began to permeate me. And in one of the greatest mysteries that can happen to a human being, my heart woke up, that spiritual organ of divine perception that is a direct connection with the source of love, what the Sufis called the beloved. And so I fell in love with the beloved, and also with the woman who was to become my wife, because this love was both human and divine, both erotic and intangible. But it was real as the light I saw in my children's eyes after they were born, as real as their laughter and tears. It was a love that took me into life, even as it opened me in deep meditation, gave me access to realities beyond the mind. Then, years later, when my children were already at school, I was asked to follow in the tradition of my teacher and teach this ancient mystical path of love. I learnt how the transmission given through the grace of the tradition spins the heart and awakens the wayfarer to the connection between the ego and the soul. And I learnt how love is given, effortlessly, the love that is needed to take the wayfarer home, back to the beloved. It is very simple, this flow of love from heart to heart, from soul to soul, even as it is one of the greatest mysteries. And it is needed, for without this love there can be no journey, no lover's embrace. I have written books about this love, about the Sufi tradition of love and longing, those two sides of love, and how it tears the heart even as it awakens the soul, how it is the magnet towards which we are drawn, the wine whose single sip we crave. Now I will just say that it is real, and it is given through the grace of the teacher. Sometimes it was given to an individual sitting in front of me, what is called tawajo, a spiritual transmission, or at a group meeting, even a seminar of 300 people. It would flow to all those present, reminding them of their true nature, of the greater love to which we all belong. Sometimes giving this love was intoxicating, sometimes draining. After 20 years of this work, I was exhausted, until, as I have shared, I was awakened to an inner dimension of pure love, what I have called a landscape of love, where there are rivers of light. This was a place where love is, and I would be present in this landscape, knowing nothing except the truth of its presence. But at the same time, even as I became aware of the immensity of this love and how it is our divine heritage, I was forced to recognize how few people wanted it for its true nature. Many of those who sat with me wanted a more personal love, one that offered comfort or understanding, even a relationship. They liked the feeling of love, but were not fully open to its demands. It was given for the sake of truth, but used for so many other purposes. I would often filled an emptiness in their lives, healed their wounds. And this saddened me, as seeing those who mistake a small pond for the ocean. But because an essential nature of this love is freedom, I just watched this endless drama of love unfold. I watched how people were satisfied with the crumbs from the table of love. But once again I became exhausted, and something in me withdrew. Finally, I finished teaching, gave my last lectures, closed my meditation group, passed the transmission on to my son. I preferred to be in nature, which more honestly expresses the wonder of divine love and unity. The coyote on the trail, the hummingbird drinking nectar in my garden, the daffodils I planted opening yellow in the early spring, were all true to their essential nature, were love incarnate. And this is where I remained for many years, living mostly in seclusion and prayer, far from the confusion of human relationships and the misunderstanding of a love that is given freely. My own journey continued, as I have documented in these stories. I watched the tide rise and fall many times, heard the winter storms batter the roof in the night. The newborn, still-speckled fawns eating the grass in my garden have become my friends. The chipmunks scurrying for seeds dropped from the bird feeder, my companions. And inwardly, I watched the world turn, patterns of darkness arise on the horizons, and then come into play, causing endless suffering. Meanwhile, my heart began to turn with the stars, with the inner constellations as well as the presence of the masters of the path who have walked before us. Angels and devas spoke to me more than people. Love was always present, but no longer pressing. Often my heart cried and I tried to love our suffering earth, to hold it in prayer. But I understood less and less of the ways of the world, of its patterns of distraction, its desires and addictions, the toxic world of social media, and the false promises of AI. But then, as if from beyond the stars, from where Atman and Brahman meet, a thread of love returned. The simple love that links us to each other and to the earth. It came like a light in the heart. This was not the love whose purpose was to carry the imprint of truth, but maybe just the love I never knew as a child. It is a love that wants nothing for itself, but is like a dewdrop on an early summer's morning. And so I watched this love as one would watch a newborn, with wonder and stillness. Love is such a mystery, is the greatest mystery. It comes from far beyond the mind and senses into our heart and our lives. It speaks of what it really means to be alive, to watch the in-breath and the out-breath. It is the core of all that exists, even as it reaches to the stars. I am no longer searching for anything, except maybe an understanding of why I am still here. As my previous writings hint, I am too exhausted, battered by years of giving of my own essence, to do more than go for my early morning walk and enjoy the lunch my wife cooks. My work is done, and there is little left in me to engage. My consciousness has wandered too far into other worlds. I have lost the language of today, and prefer silence and prayer. But I wonder if this love has a message, a calling to return to what is simply human, that sweetness that was before honey or bee. Love is the simplest, most direct connection to each other, to the earth, and to the beloved. It should be tasted with our mother's milk and sensed in our earliest relationship to the natural world around. It is in the dawn chorus and the first green shoots of spring. It is watching a tomato ripen and tasting a freshly picked berry. It is the world our ancestors inhabited, still present in landscapes that have not been lost or polluted. It is pushing a swing in the playground and bedtime stories, and those simple words, I love you. Maybe there is a reason that I began this life with a blank page, so that I could experience this central human quality without prejudice or preconceptions. Love is free. It cannot be bought and sold. As in the lyrics, money can't buy you love, even though many try to package and promote it. It does not belong to our world of time. As Rumi simply expresses, step out of the circle of time and into the circle of love. This is why when you fall in love, it is always forever, even if it lasts just a month. And as the great Sufi Dhul recounts, when, standing on the shore, he was told by a woman, love has no end, because the beloved has no end. Love, human and divine, has been central to my own life story, in particular what I have called the bond with the beloved, the link of love that is found within the heart and within the cells of everything that exists. It connects us all together in a living unity of divine love, what the Sufis call the unity of being. And yet it is also very individual, speaking to each of us in our own way. And for me it has now returned or re-emerged as a simple spark within the heart. Maybe this is where my story will come to an end, with what is simple, human, and most ordinary, even as it contains the greatest mystery in creation. And what is most simple and ordinary is a living light in the web of creation, which stretches to the stars and beyond. From the unborn and undying emptiness, first light is born, the pure light of the Logos principle, known to the Sufis as the Mohammedan light, or Nur al-Muhammadi. And with this light of pure intention comes love, because it is love that binds the worlds together, linking all of creation, its distant galaxies and falling leaves, directly with the Creator, in the mystery of divine revelation, the self-disclosure of God. Here in this world, the web of life with its interconnected, interdependent patterns is mirrored in the web of light and love, which holds the spiritual purpose of everything that is created. In a human being, this light and love is imprinted into the unborn embryo of the child, its first spiritual heartbeat. And for each of us, life's journey is to live this light, this love, to stay true to its original impression, our first heartbeat. How to make this journey was explained in the original instructions, now mostly forgotten. How to live in praise and thanksgiving. For some, this love is hidden, as it was in the first years of my own life. For others, it is more visible and can help them to find their way, attract them to others with whom their heart resonates. It may draw them into service or towards spiritual practice, or even be bright enough to help others to recognize their own light. It can grow, shine more brightly, or become covered over, become less visible. But it remains in the core of our being, until one day we pass on to the further shore, where our spiritual twin is waiting, and then into that greater love which embraces us. Mostly we forget, caught in life's many illusions and distractions. But this principal purpose remains, and the rest of our life is mainly just shadows passing on the surface of the water. The light and love contain the song of our soul, and our true contribution to the whole of life, our note in life's symphony. I have seen my twin waiting on a further shore and sense that my life's journey is coming to an end. And so I return to this simple light, this love that is life's greatest gift. I can sense it in my love for the earth, especially as I witness her suffering, and in my love for the beloved, awakened at the feet of my teacher. With the single eye of the heart I have watched my children and grandchildren grow, even as I have looked inward into a love and light that is vast and undefined. But love itself remains a simple feeling, and as the Sufi says, the heart alone knows what the substance of love is. I have tried to live this love I have been given. Love's longing helped me find my way towards truth, and its light maybe helped guide others on their way. With this love I have been able to see the colours of creation, glimpse the wonder of a red-tailed falcon, or the fragrance of the honeysuckle climbing the fence. I have felt the simple mystery of the connection between people, a quality of closeness and tenderness not known in my own childhood. And because love belongs to oneness, I know that the love I feel belongs to all that exists, as well as the primal emptiness I experience in deep meditation. The spark I was given as a gift before I was born has told me its story, how in love there are never two, but lover, beloved, and love are one. Finally, I would like to share a little of the emptiness that I found at love's further shore. A vast emptiness I now come to recognize has been central to the journey I have made, lifetime after lifetime. Vast emptiness. Half a century ago, I was awakened by a Zen koan. The wild geese do not intend to cast any reflection. The water has no mind to retain their image. I practiced empty mind meditation and found myself inwardly present in a dynamic emptiness, radically different to the world of my boarding school. 50 years later, this emptiness is again present, though now it is no longer experienced only inwardly, in meditation, but also infuses my waking consciousness. I am living in a vast emptiness which surrounds me. In this space there is no longer any awakening, because there is no one present to awaken. Spiritual life is an uncovering of what was always present. In Buddhism it's called one's original nature. In Sufism it is a state of union with the divine, with the love that is the source of all that exists. In this primal state there is pure awareness, original mind, or pure love, when lover and beloved are one. When I was 19, I met my teacher, a white-haired Russian woman who had just come back from India after the death of her guru. Looking into her eyes, I knew that she knew that truth was present. For many years I strived towards truth, the light in my teacher's eyes. But when truth arrived, the room was empty. No one was present. There was no realization, no awakening. It is as it was. For more than 50 years I have been sitting in silence. Now my knees hurt from sitting. Sometimes love is present, sometimes bliss, most often emptiness. Everything comes and goes. The seasons change. Spring comes, buds breaking open. And later autumn, leaves falling. I watch the tide rise and fall in the bay outside my window. In the vastness beyond the mind and its thoughts, everything is both present and absent. There is no journey, no realization, just a deepening immersion in that which cannot be named. I used to speak of a spiritual journey, of states and stages along the path. But here there is no journey. Even the Dharma is lost in the vast emptiness. Is this my original self? The same emptiness I experienced when I first sat in silence, turning inward and emptying the mind. Is this what always was, my unborn and undying self? A bird alights on a branch outside my window. I can hear the noise of traffic passing at the bottom of the hill. Is the real nature of existence the vast emptiness, rather than these 10,000 things appearing moment by moment? Between my first schoolboy experience of Zen emptiness and the vast emptiness that now surrounds me, I have had many life experiences. I fell in love, raised a family, laughter and tears. For 30 years I was a Sufi teacher, guiding wayfarers along the ancient path of the mystic, deep within the chambers of the heart, into love and oneness. Sitting together, hearing the stories of people's lives, their dreams, problems and aspirations, watching over their hearts and souls, aligning them with the deeper love that comes from the beyond. And then there came the time to close that chapter of my life and retire into seclusion, to walk the trails and beaches near to my home, nourished by the simplicity and beauty of the world around. Walking in the early morning, winter's frost turning the grass silver, dawn a golden red line on the horizon. No need for thoughts, because this landscape is complete in itself. The egrets brilliant white in the wetlands, the otters swimming in the lagoon, noses breaking the surface of the water. Here is a return to what is simple and natural, so different to our broken, toxic world. But then the emptiness again came calling, speaking a language for which there are no words. Here there is neither time nor timelessness, nor even the present moment. There is no moment-by-moment awakening. It is too empty, too primal, too vast. Is this an origin or a destination? I do not call it the void, because it is all around me, not just found in meditation. It is a placeless place, a stateless state that is neither life nor death. It is not just the mind that is empty, but the whole vast horizonless landscape. Just before he died, my Indian guru's final words to my teacher were, "There is nothing but nothingness." After a lifetime's journey, this is where I find myself. Here there is neither self nor journey, and the emptiness is too vast for any image of a spiritual path or the drama of awakening. When I was 16, those initial months of awakening to emptiness were so intense and wonderful. I was alive in ways I had never imagined, not believed possible. Coming out of meditation, there was a light in the air I had never seen. The colours sang. I was full of laughter and joy. It was like falling in love, but far more complete. But this feels different, more total, and in many ways more impersonal. We each have our own destiny, what is written in the book of life. It takes us into the many textures of existence. It senses wildness and beauty, love and heartache. And a spiritual life is part of this destiny. There comes the time when we pick up this thread, when we begin to walk a path. Spiritual life usually flows across lifetimes. When I first awoke to spiritual life when I was 16, I felt I was back in a monastery, practicing Zen meditation. And since I was 7, I had been in a boarding school only too similar to a Zen monastery, governed by the ringing of bells. Last lifetime I was a Zen monk, this life a Sufi teacher. Both times the central practice was silent meditation, stilling the mind, going beyond its chatter into deeper dimensions of our being, into silent emptiness. Our first glimpse, our first deep experience, often prefigures the journey. The end is present at the beginning. Now, in the final years of this life, the emptiness is my companion, even as its silence washes away so much of my existence, leaving just a deep unknowing that is so often the reality of the mystic. I can still glimpse the beauty of the outer world, fragile and numinous, or feel its sorrows. The Sufi path of love has opened my heart in the most unexpected ways. But now even most of my life experiences have faded away, been lost in the silence. This is not a silence that is opposite to sound, just as the emptiness is not opposite to form. It is a landscape steeped in what is other, what has no name and can only be hinted at, not described. But it reaches across lifetimes, ancient memories of sitting in monastery halls, the rain on the roof, the courtyard swept clear. Bells sound across the hills, sometimes a hermit in a hut beside a stream, still sitting, knowing only silence. Lifetimes like this. Was anything found or uncovered? Birth, death, and the 10,000 things are lost in the vast emptiness.